Well, hello everybody, extremely warm welcome to my channel. My name's Louise Savage of Louise Savage Muses. Welcome if you are watching me for the very first time, and welcome back if you are a returning viewer. Everybody's welcome to my musings / ramblings. Well, it's with absolute horror that I realised that it is May and it's towards the end of May, and I haven't done a book haul video this year at all. So I'm not sure even if this great big pile of books is everything that I've acquired this year. I suspect there may be 1 or 2 things that I've already read, or in fact I know they have, because there's been the entirety of the Women's Prize for non-fiction long list and the fiction shortlist. So I haven't featured any of those books, or I'm not featuring any of those books here today. But there is a whole sort of raft of books here that I'm really eager to have a look at myself, because I've got to that point where I'm almost at the end of reading the fiction shortlist. I'm really looking forward to discussing that with Simon Savage next weekend. No, the weekend after next. And so I'm ready to do some free reading, which is always a really lovely feeling. I love reading for prizes, but equally it's nice to have time to actually just pick and choose off your shelves. And equally I'm hoping to catch up with the Savage prompts, which I'm a little bit, not massively behind with, but a little bit behind. But anyway, more on that maybe next week. So so without further ado, I'm going to have a look and reminisce about the books that I've bought this year. When I say bought, actually, a lot of them I've acquired somehow. So first up is this book. I absolutely love the cover. I bought this from the Oxfam charity bookshop in Ludlow, which is very close to where I live. And I think it was probably the cover that attracted me. I'm going to put my goggles on now, because I'm going to need to read the blurb, because I think the cover, as the cover implies, I think this is quite a sensational story. It's called, now, is it called? Yeah, it's called Laura, and it's by Vera Caspari. And I don't know anything about Vera Caspari. I'm just having a look inside. It's a vintage classic, which, you know, I'm trying to, this year I'm really wanting to catch up with lots of readers, particularly female writers from the past that I've kind of missed. She was born in November 1899 in Chicago, so, you know, I'd in my ignorance, I'd never heard of her. Gosh, she lived a ripe old age. She died in June 1987, so she did well, didn't she? She had a good innings. And I'm not even sure whether she wrote lots of books. It looks like she wrote 3 or 4 maybe. But anyway, it says in the doorway of in the doorway of an elegant New York apartment, blood seeps over a silk negligee. That's so cinematic. You can just see that as the opening scene in some sort of dark film. There are polished wood floors, there's a plush carpet, a beautiful woman lies dead, her face disfigured by a single gunshot. And immediately that drew me in. But clearly there's a mystery. So it says, but who was Laura? What power did she hold? Blah, blah, blah. So it looks like a sort of thriller, detective, exploratory novel. So thank you, Oxfam, because I think I shall really enjoy dipping into that at some point. And what a sensational cover. I really like that. I like the fact that her identity is hidden in the image as well. That's a book cover that really does indicate what you're getting on the tin. And then next up is a book called The Faces by Tove Ditlevson. And when I was in Copenhagen at the end of January, so you can see how long ago this goes back, I wanted to buy something that would remind me of the trip. And I spent ages in a wonderful bookshop, and it's awful, but the name, I should have looked it up before I did the video, but I've forgotten the name of the shop. But it's right in the centre of Copenhagen, huge, huge bookshop. And I was absolutely bowled over by and impressed by the amount of English fiction and non-fiction they had in there. I mean, the fiction section, the English fiction section, was bigger than a lot of independent bookshops in this country. It was really quite gobsmacking. But anyway, apparently she is one of Denmark's most celebrated writers, and I'd never heard of her. That's according to the New Statesman. And it's about a woman who writes children's books, and she's got 3 children, but she starts being haunted by all these disembodied voices and faces. So again, a bit like the previous one, it sounds really, really creepy. And she's also become convinced that her husband's being extremely unfaithful to her. So she's, you know, she's clearly in a very sort of dark place. And I think this is a book that explores psyche and insanity, and whether insanity is real or imagined, or you know, a feature of your sort of moment in life, as it were. So I'm really looking forward to this, although I think it might be, when I say looking forward, I think it might be something that's very disturbing and unsettling to read. But I was really surprised that I'd never come across this woman. And this is a Penguin edition. It's a Penguin modern classic. And then next up, I've had several visits, as will become apparent, to the wonderful Booker Bookshop in Bridgnorth. They also have a bookshop in Oswestry as well. And this is a novel I bought there. In fact, I think the next few I probably purchased there. And this is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh, which I know has been made into a TV, I can't remember if it's a film or TV adaptation. And I really, really want to watch it, but I don't want to watch it until I've read the book. And this is about a woman called Eileen who is trapped. She's caring for her alcoholic father. You can see I'm reading shamelessly from the blurb here because I can't remember. And her job as a secretary at the boys' prison. And she tempers her dreary days with dreams of escaping to the big city. So I think I've only read, was it My Year of Rest and Relaxation? I'm just having a look on my shelves. That's why I'm rudely turning my back to you. I think she wrote that, didn't she? MMM. I can't, yes, she did, which wasn't, I know a lot of people really enjoyed it. I wasn't bowled over by it, but I know that lots of people have read this and loved it. And the other one she wrote, did she write Lapvona, I think? So I am keen to come to this. And quite often, you know, if I read a novel, something by a novelist that I don't enjoy, it doesn't necessarily put me off reading something else by them. It could just be, you know, a quirk. It could just be that subject matter wasn't for me, or the character really jarred with me, or whatever. I would stick with an author, always give them a second chance, because otherwise you just don't know what you're going to miss out on. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. Well, I'm looking forward to all of these books. Next up is another book that I purchased at the Booker Bookshop, and this is Joseph O'Connor's My Father's House. Now, I read The Star of the Sea by him, and I've read something else by him, and I really enjoy Joseph O'Connor's writing. As it suggested, he's an Irish writer, but and usually for him, this book is set in New York, I think. Is it New York or Washington? Oh no, I've got that completely wrong, have I? Oh no, it's Rome, that's right. Duh. That'll serve me right for looking at something without my glasses on. New York, that is not New York. Quite clearly it's Rome. So you've got a priest here. It's called My Father's House. And I think it'll be an exploration of Joseph O'Connor, of course, is Irish. So I suspect, yes, it's about an Irish priest. I did know this, you see. I bought it so long ago, I've forgotten. He's dedicating, oh, that's right, it's set in the war. The Nazis are occupying Rome. It's 1943, now I remember. And there's an SS officer dominating Rome, and this is obviously about some priest who helps escape. So I think this is going to be a really interesting insight into Rome at the time. I've been lucky enough to go to Rome on many occasions, and I always love reading books that are set in places that I've visited. So I am, again, I'll say it again, looking forward to this one. Next up is Percival Everett's Dr. No. Again, I read The Trees. I think it was shortlisted for the Booker Prize either last year or the year before. and I still haven't got round to reading anything else of his. So I purchased this so that when I want to, I can get to Percival Everett. Percival Everett is what I would call a renegade of the writing world. He writes, I think, certainly The Trees was really quite eccentric and quite unusual and very funny and very dark. And this is about a professor of maths who specialises in nothing. So there you go, Dr. No. And I really enjoyed The Trees. I thought it was an absolute gem. And I love it when I read something that is not like anything else I've ever read before. And I suspect that Percival Everett's books are all like that. I think they're all probably a little bit eccentric, a little bit unusual, very sort of intellectually challenging. I think this one might be. And it's described as a great deal of fun with a lot of comic mileage. So I suspect when I'm feeling a bit I will pick this one up. And again, what a jazzy, wonderful, bright, glorious cover. Next up is, it's called The Lost Love Songs of Boysie Singh. And this is a book that Simon gifted to me. It's a proof copy, and it's by Ingrid Persaud. And oh my goodness, you see my memory's going. What was the name of her wonderful book that I absolutely loved? Oh, what was it called? It might not say because... yeah, Love After Love, that's right, of course. I loved Love After Love. You see, I should have remembered it because I loved it. And so I don't know anything much about this. There's a picture with an anchor and an upside down child. I remember the first time I saw Boysie Singh, some part of me knew this man was trouble. Doris. So, yeah. Oh, it tells you a bit about the four women. It's a tale of four women. Popo, brilliant, vulnerable and stuck. Manalala, a devoted mother. Her only connection to her man is their little boy, and she will do anything to keep him close. Doris, well, he's glorious, and once she's licked him into shape, her husband presents an opportunity to climb the social ladder. Rosie just wants to mind her business. Her lover Etty and her store. Four lives connected and controlled by one man. And I suspect that one man might be Boysie Singh. So yeah, intriguing, and it's a bit of a chunkster. So that's one for settling down when I've got a sort of fairly free weekend and I want to just, maybe when the weather's not so good, completely engross myself in a novel. Another gift from my son Simon, I Who Have Never Known Men by Jaqueline Harpman. Again, I've heard a lot of noise about this book. For a long time, the days went by, each just like the day before. Then I began to think and everything changed. Deep underground, 39 women live imprisoned in a cage. So it's a dystopian feminist story. And I love it because this is so different to all the other books that I've just showcased. And I suspect this is something that I will sit down and read when I've got a couple of spare hours, because it looks very quick to get through. Here's a book that I purchased when Simon and Chris and I went to visit Little Morton Hall. Simon, my son, Chris, my son-in-law. And this is The Offing by Benjamin Myers. Now, I've yet to read any Benjamin Myers. Somewhere I've got it's here, The Gallows Pole. I still haven't read that, but this was a charity purchase. I think it was only about £1. So I thought I would invest in it. I love the colour. One summer following the Second World War, Robert Appleyard sets out on foot from his Durham village. 16 and the son of a coal miner, he makes his way across the northern countryside until he reaches the former smuggling village of Robin Hood's Bay. There he meets Dulcie, an eccentric and otherworldly older woman who lives in a ramshackle cottage. And that sounds like the most wonderful yarn. And Robin Hood's Bay is a really atmospheric, I don't know, I think it's probably a large village. I don't think it's a town, near Whitby on the Yorkshire coast in the UK. And again, I think this is probably a sort of really atmospheric read. Aren't charity bookshops wonderful? And this is something else that I picked up from Little Morton Hall as well. It's called Mateship with Birds, What Makes a Family. Now, again, this is not a book I think that I would have come across any other way than had I been browsing through a second-hand bookshop. It's, well, there's praise on the back for her, for something else that Carrie Tiffany's written. On the outskirts of a country town in the early 1950s, a lonely farmer trains his binoculars on a raucous family of kookaburras roosting next to his dairy. As Harry observes the birds through a year of feast, famine, birth, death, war, romance and song, his neighbour Betty has her own set of binoculars trained on him. Isn't that just the most beautiful concept? That one man is watching birds, but he himself is also being watched. And that must be, I think, what really appealed to me about this book. And she was shortlisted for the Guardian and Orange Prize. So yeah, and there's a question at the top here: what is it that makes a family? Well, isn't that a question and a half? Then we've had some smashing visits to West Kirby Bookshop, which is near where my son Simon lives. And I purchased this, John Berger, The Foot of Clive. And I think the reason Benjamin Myers, really, it's introduced by Benjamin Myers. And again, I think this fascinated me because it's a 1960s hospital ward. There's a curtained off bed and it's guarded by policemen, and in it lies a murderer hidden from view and likely to die before he can be hung from his crime. Now, I was really intrigued by this. That whole concept of prisoners in hospital fascinates me. I was unlucky enough to be hospitalised about 5 or 6 years ago. I was very, very ill, and I was lying there in my hospital bed and hooked up to all sorts of contraptions, and they wheeled in somebody who was accompanied by police and was actually handcuffed to their bed, and that whole image has really stuck with me. So I suspect that might be why I picked this up, because it just seems a really kind of incongruous thing. You don't normally come into contact with prisoners, and so I think I liked the idea of the setting and the concept there. Yeah. The next two, the final two that I'm going to wang on about today, are both gifted to me by Simon. So this one is The Other Side of Mrs. Wood by Lucy Barker. And again, I know nothing of this apart from the fact that it's been passed on. And again, I do love this cover. It looks to me like it's historical fiction, but I could be wrong. So we've got a candelabra. We've got these wonderful eyes looking at us here. And I want your reputation, the girl said to Mrs. Wood. I want everything you have. I think this is going to be a bestsellery, page-turnery romp of a read, is how I feel. It's described as fresh and original, wonderful characters, full of wit. So again, I think this is one for curling up on a rainy weekend type of book. Really indulge myself in. And finally, this seems like a real tome. There's something about this that makes me feel I don't know. There's a worthiness to it. Again, I think it must be, yeah, it's a proof copy, isn't it, that Simon's passed on to me, and it's called Hours by Philip B. Williams. And over a century before the boy who was shot dead at the intersection of First and Bank stood up in his own blood and spoke his name as if it were just given to him, there was a town named Hours, founded by a mysterious and fearsome woman, right where the boy had been shot. But perhaps this story begins centuries before then, at the muddy waters of the Apalachicola River, or further back on a ship named the Divider, carrying those misunderstood to be the future of slavery to the Western world. So it looks like a really sort of a novel that has a huge scope in terms of history, in terms of place, and I'm excited to read that and dive into that when I have a spare week. Anyway, there we are. They are the sort of highlights, I think, of my book shopping thus far this year. I've been very lucky. I haven't felt the need to invest in too many books because I've as I say, I've been working my way through the wonderful women's prize books. But I hope that titillated your interest. I hope that you are busy reading some wonderful things. Please, if you've had any interesting recent book purchases or any book hauls of your own, please let me know what they are and pique my interest, because I love looking out for things that you've recommended to me when I wander into a bookshop. And I feel as though I haven't done an awful lot of book shopping this year. I know that's a lot of books, but I think that at this time of year, when the weather gets nice and I might be out and about a bit more beyond the village, I suspect that I may be purchasing a few more. So any recommendations are always really, really gratefully received. Anyway, I'm about to hit the road. I'm off up to Stockport. Let's hope it's not raining up there. It often is. And hopefully speak to you all this time next week. Take care, folks. Bye.